Hello everyone, this is El Acuarela. Welcome back to my channel. I know when you're starting in watercolor, you don't want to invest a lot of money in your art supplies to figure out whether you like it or not, right? You want to start first and try to see if you can get the hang of it and just give it a go without having to kind of break the wallet. And I thought I would share with you a few supplies that you can get for under $5 total, not just each, but total, to get you started in watercolor and at least help you practice some of the techniques that are required to paint in watercolor. And that way you don't have to spend a lot of money. So whether you're in a tight budget or you're just kind of frugal and you don't want to spend a lot of money on something that you don't know if you like. So I'm going to show you what my recommendation would be if you're in that spot. So this right here is a painting that I made, just a little painting that I made with these supplies that are under $5. So you can see, it's a very simple painting, but I used layering techniques. I used wet on wet, which I'll tell you what that is in a moment. And I used different types of brush strokes. So my list of materials is the following. I'm going to show you the materials, tell you the price, add them up so you can see how expensive they actually are, and then show you how you can use them. So you already got a sneak peek of what the materials were since you saw the set of brushes and these index cards here in my previous frame, but this would be kind of the equivalent of your paints for this kind of a little experiment. This will allow you to paint like you're painting with watercolors, even though these are not watercolors, they are water soluble. And I will show you how you can use those in a second. So for painting in watercolor, you need three things. You need paint, which we will use the markers as if it was our paint. We need paper. In this case, we're gonna use index cards. So watercolor paper is a very specific type of paper. It's very thick. It absorbs water, but it doesn't absorb too much. So it allows the paint to move around while also kind of making the colors pop. The cheapest option I found as an alternative to watercolor paper, if you are really tight budget, is to use index cards. And they work pretty well. Of course, they don't work like professional watercolor paper exactly, but you can do a lot of things and get very many effects with those. The third thing you need is brushes. Brushes can get really expensive. There are brushes that just for one brush, you can pay like $100 because there's some special like animal hair in there and like fancy wood handle or something. But you don't need these expensive materials in order to get started and to figure out whether you really like this medium or not. So this will help you just try it out. The fourth thing I would say you need is a palette. That's to mix your colors. Now, if you don't want to spend money on a palette, because they could get, some of them are cheap, some of them are a bit pricier, you don't need to spend any money on it. You can use a piece of clear plastic. So this is clear plastic from some packaging that I bought something, I don't know what it was, and it has this clear packaging on top. I ripped it out and I'm using this as my palette. And then you just need water, which I have here, some water, and a paper towel to dry your brushes, and you're good to go. So in terms of the cost for these, I did a little breakdown of the cost. The markers were actually 97 cents at Walmart. So I'm going to show you here. This is the Walmart website. 97 cents. You can this is for US, folks in the US. If you're outside the US, try to find a local discount store, maybe like the equivalent of a dollar store that you can go to and get something similar. Basically, you just need water soluble markers. So not permanent markers, but water soluble markers. Any brand would do. I'm just showing you the one that I got. Then the brush set. The brush set was $3.49. I bought these at Michael's. It actually brought more brushes, but I missed one. I don't know where I put it. I actually got these with a 50% coupon. So they actually cost me $1.75 for 5 brushes. And then the index cards, I got them at Dollar General for $1. So you can get these at any dollar store or even in your local drugstore or in Walmart. I'm sure they sell them. I just didn't look at Walmart. But basically, all these three things combined, paper, paint, and your brushes, are $3.72 plus tax. So wow, like less than $5. Very little investment. And of course, the prices will vary depending on the region and where you are. But more or less, you can spend $5 or less. So let's grab an index card. So you know index cards have these kind of lines on one side. So we're going to use the side that's just white with no lines. And this is going to be our clear plastic. Here is going to be our palette. And I'm going to pull out some of my markers here. So you get a great selection of colors, 10 colors. And I'm actually missing one. I think I'm missing the yellow. Where's the yellow? So you get a primary, the three primary colors, yellow, red, and blue. You get pink, green, purple, orange, brown, black, and a gray. So you can do a lot of color mixing with this and get many other colors. So I'm going to show you just the primaries first, because once you have this, and if you're starting out, you get these materials and you're going to have to learn a few of the basics in order to paint. The basic thing is color mixing. So I'm sure, most of us got taught in elementary school that you can make any color out of yellow, red, and blue. So that's what we're going to do here, just a little demonstration. So what I'm doing is I am basically just painting or drawing circles on my plastic film. That is my palette. Just laying out basically the pigment. So this would be our pigment. And I'm going to take one of my brushes. I'm going to dip it in water. And I'm going to wet this pigment. So this is yellow. So I'm just going to make a little, color wheel, let's say, here. So you can add more pigment if you find it to be too thin. But you basically just put water on your marker. And you paint on your index card. As easy as that. So there's a color wheel just to show you how you can mix the colors. If you notice, this paper peels, so you'll see a little piece of paper that are peeling off there. That's because this is not meant for water, right? So when you use it, you have to be very gentle with it and don't scrub back and forth. I did this so you could see how that peels. But you can mix color, like multiple colors with this. So this is pretty awesome. So now let's do a little demonstration of how to paint some leaves. So we're gonna grab a new fresh index card, and I'm gonna clean my palette of that yellow, and I'm gonna add some green here. I'll put a good amount of pigment, and I want to add some orange, because green and orange actually make a really nice natural green, like a sappy green. And the more you play with these, so I would recommend you play around with these, make a color chart, and try to understand what kind of colors you can make. So if you use them like straight out of, I won't want to say straight out of the tube because these are not tubes, but straight out of the marker without mixing, you'll get a very unnatural type of green. But if you mix that green with a little orange, you'll get a much more natural green. That's a lot more usable. You can actually might find that green in nature. It's not as neon as the other one. And you can actually use that for painting many different things. So you can add more blue if you want to make it like a different shade of green. You can add some red to tone it down and make it a little grayer. And again, I don't want to like overwhelm you with a lot of watercolor techniques here. So you should go on YouTube and look at other YouTubers that teach watercolor and learn, you know, the basics. There are tons of great YouTubers that have tutorials on different like techniques and for beginners. So I would definitely encourage you to do that. So basically I'm just making little leaves here. So this leaf is wet. And while it's wet, I'm gonna add a little bit of red mixed with the green and blue to get a darker color. I actually want to move around. So I'm not scrubbing back and forth. I'm just kind of touching the paper. So I'm actually gonna make a stem. I'm just gonna make a stem. So these brushes are craft brushes. They're not meant to be watercolor brushes, but there are tons of brushes you can use as watercolor brushes that are not meant for watercolor, especially if you're in a budget and you're looking for alternatives. This set comes with 2 small round brushes like this. It's great to make different types of, round brushes are the most useful, I think, in watercolor. I use them the most. You can do many of the most needed brush strokes with a round brush. It comes with a few flat brushes, so flat brushes would be good for breaking backgrounds or covering larger areas with paint. But if you're painting flowers, leaves, anything like that, then round brushes are going to be your best friend. Just a lot easier, especially if you're starting out. The other alternative to getting this set of brushes for $1.75 would be to get one brush, one good round brush, maybe a number 8 or a number 10 that you could find somewhere for maybe less than $1 or $1. Now it's hard to get a decent watercolor brush that's not a craft brush for less than $1 or less than $2. So that's definitely a struggle. I found these after looking around in many, many different places. I found that these were the best deal that actually kind of performed. They don't perform like professional brushes, but they're good enough that at least you can get the sense for, what watercolor techniques are like and whether you like it or not. So I'm gonna let those dry. And I'm gonna try to paint a similar rose to that rose that I showed you at the beginning. I couldn't believe it when I tried these index cards. I love to try out random stuff with my art materials to see what I can do with random art materials that have nothing to do with each other. It's like, I don't know why I get such pleasure out of it, but I do. So now I mix some of the pink with yellow to make kind of a peachy color. I'm gonna make that really wet, and I'm gonna just make little concentric circles. And I'm gonna press my brush and release to make thinner or thicker lines. And again, there's tons of watercolor flower tutorials out there. So if you don't want to learn how to make these, just search on YouTube loose watercolor flower tutorials and you will get a ton. So basically just do little concentric circles with your brush, and you vary your brush pressure on the paper to make thicker or thinner lines. So then what I'm doing here is I'm dropping some color where it's still wet to kind of let it bleed out, because I want it to kind of have more interest. I want the color to bleed and and move around. You can also try to move it around by tilting your paper. You can dry your brush and try to move it around with your brush if it's not going where you want it to go. And that's how you make a rose. Very simple rose. And I'm gonna try to see if I can make the stems for these leaves. Just gonna make, not stems, the veins, I should say. So I'm just gonna make really simple veins. I mean, this is not like an actual composition or a painting, is just an example of how you can use these materials to actually paint watercolor like paintings and not spend a lot of money doing it. You can have fun with it and it's super enjoyable. There's one more thing you can do with these, is that you can actually do calligraphy with Crayola markers, and there's tons of videos about how to do that. So I'm gonna maybe show you one example. I'm gonna put some pink down in my little palette and I'm gonna pick it up with the yellow. So I'm gonna actually contaminate the tip of my yellow marker. And then I'm gonna try to write. I am not a calligrapher. I don't practice that often. But you can make cool effects. So I actually you get like a gradient of like pink to yellow, and it's pretty cool. So you can make cute watercolor postcards and send them off to friends and family. So you can, like, for example, then you can clean off the tip. So I just cleaned it up with a paper towel to get it back, so it's like self-cleaning, you could say. So let me get some green. Actually, now I got all inspired by this calligraphy. So you could like make a nice card. This is not the best color to use with this, but so basically the secret is that you put pressure on your downstrokes and you don't put pressure on your upstrokes to make it kind of look like calligraphy. So these are great for doing many things. So basically 97 cents or wherever you are. I think you can find them in other places a bit more expensive. They might be $2.40 or $2. But I mean, super cheap. Hopefully you learned something from this video. I hope you liked it. I know it's a little out there, especially if you're already painting with professional watercolor paints. But if you're new and you just want to give it a go, or if you're already an experienced painter and you just like to experiment with different materials and see what you can get out of different levels of materials from cheapest to most expensive, this is a great little experiment to do, and it's super fun, very affordable, and you can learn a lot of stuff with this. So I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe below to see more videos like these, and I hope to see you in my next one. All right, take care. Bye-bye.